right, check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3. We got to make one more change, guys. And that's when you try to do too much. All right, so we have a script, but I just wanted you guys in on the fun, as it were, because it's going to take me just another minute to get this set up. We need to know the IP address of this other computer. So IP config, I should have it written down, but I've changed this computer, so maybe I got a new IP address. Let's don't chance it. And let's go into our scripts. Scripting is available to anybody with 4K and above. This is 80. 80, save, close. 80, there it is. And I used a different PC last week, so I changed the IP address of the script. Not that I know what I'm talking about, but let's see. Hang on. We've got about 5 different scripts, actually 6, that we need to change back the way they were last week or before last week. That should be 80. And that should be 80. So that's 80. That's 80. That's 80. I know this is boring, but you know, that's the way this stuff is sometimes. Just a lot of details. Okay. Stop all the scripts. Okay. Okay. So we're going to test something right here. And now we're back. Okay, looks like that worked just fine. So we will get rid of that and put that back the way it was. One moment, I'm getting to you. Don't go. Dave says it's fine on YouTube. Rudy's going to send Dan a beer. Rudy, if you do that, it will freeze. Even though it's got alcohol in it, it will freeze. Excuse me for my... This is the home of the Super Bowl. Atlanta, Georgia, where Coca-Cola was founded. All right, so we've got all of our shortcuts set up. And I think we can switch over. Does this turn off this mic? No. Okay, so we have to turn off this mic before we go. Yes, you had to refresh the YouTube webpage. Yep, because we made a change to it at the very last minute. All right, so let's see. You know what I don't like about this YouTube chat is it doesn't tell you how many folks are in it. I mean, or how many folks are there. I guess the YouTube page would do that. Does that tell us how many folks are watching? No, that doesn't tell us either. Let's go to a YouTube page. Let's go there, dashboard. Bear with me again 1 second. I was out in the field this morning shooting all this video, which, you know, I just don't normally do. And so I got behind because I tried to do too much. Yeah, that's really what it is. Tried to do too much. Live now, live control room. Let's see if we can just watch it. And there it is. Okay. All right. Ed Horn, you get more trolls on YouTube as well. Yeah, Yeah. Well, we're working on that. Not in chat, but below the session title, it shows how many are viewing. Thank you, but I couldn't see that. I'm not looking at what you're looking at, but that's okay. Dave, how are you, sir? Yep, we're still waiting for that church. That's okay. Tom, do you even know how to operate a recording camera? Well, the video I was taking, I was using my laptop and a 4K, the Ada 4K cam. So there we go. Dan, we're going to have to ban you. We got to keep it out of the ditch, man. Okay. All right. So let's see if we can't get this show going. By the way, if you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube directly, actually, if you're on YouTube directly, you can get the chat, but you miss out on being able to sign up for our subscription at easternshorebroadcasting.com/watchlive or something like that. Just click the Watch Live tab. But if you're watching on Facebook, we're not monitoring the comments there until afterwards. So you will want to come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com so you can get in on the chat. We're using the YouTube chat today as we practice chat. Chat Wing sold out to Chat Roll and didn't tell us. And so when we went to our page last week to set up the chat, it said, sign in for an account. So there we go. And Jan, I do know how to operate. You know, this is a camera right here, right? This is a camera right here. Yeah. So I can operate this. Golly gee. All right. Welcome, Ron. Glad to have you. We're in pre-show here, just trying to get all the ducks in a row and get all our goats herded, as it were. And we welcome you. Today we're going to be talking about 4K region of interest live streaming. So I think it'll be really interesting. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's see. So again, if you're watching us on Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, click the Watch Live tab, and you're there. Chatwing has flown the coop. That's right, Rich. And let's see. What do we need to do? Why are we frozen here? Why are we frozen? Did we do something we shouldn't have done? Something's frozen. The webcam's frozen. Let's see if we can unfreeze it. Logitech C920. Okay, it's not functioning. All right, something happened to the Logitech. So we'll sit tight. We'll just start the show. What the heck? Shall we start the show? Let's start the show. And if you're calling me on the phone, I'm not answering. So sit tight. We'll be right there. Oh, this is cool. I paused the video, and it's behind now. There we go. Okay, so it shows the green screen. There we go. All right. Sit tight. We'll be right there. Looks like all the USBs went south, although the audio is still working. Hang on a second. Let's see what we can figure out. Well, that's no good. That's no good. Let's try this. Okay, here's the story. Somehow, all the USBs, you saw when the webcam went black, all the USBs have stopped working. So the protocol at this point, hate to say it, but is for me to reboot my production PC. The good news is that the streaming PC is not affected. So what I want you to do is I'll throw some music or something on there while I reboot the production PC. The streaming PC will keep streaming. So don't go anywhere. Stay right there. I'll be right back. Okay, I think we're back. Yeah, boy, gee whiz. So everything's out of whack. Everything's out of whack. Let's see. We're probably going to be just way, way pale because everything is, well, the settings should be saved. Let's try it. Let's try it. All right, so we got audio, we got video. We need to switch over audio. Very good. Okay. One of these days we're going to get this. You know, sooner or later we're going to get this right. Those colors are new. Yeah, the colors are new. Let's see. Oh my goodness, what did we do here for colors? That's not much better, is it? Yeah, we won't worry about correcting this cam too much. Well, it is cold here. That is true. All right, let's see. So we're going to mute this mic. We're going to enable the other mic. And we'll be ready to go. That looks good. So let's try again. I have to get Rich's wireless controller, but I just love my X keys. All right, let's see. Let's come over here and we'll get ready for the show. So let's see, did we get anything good there? Nope. Yeah, we lost the chat, so we're flying blind. Let's start a show. Let's start a show and just see what happens. It might just work. All right, here we go. Well, hello. Have you been waiting long? No, I'm just teasing. I'm Tom Sinclair, and this is Streaming Idiots. And I appreciate, for those of you watching live, thank you for your patience. For those of you that watched the recorded version and watched all the machinations of getting to this point, thank you for your patience. And hopefully you can tune in live one day and chat with the other folks who are in the YouTube chat. We're using YouTube chat today because Chatwing sold out to Chatroll, and Chatroll dropped us like a hot roll. So we're trying out YouTube chat for a while to see how it works. If you're watching us on Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com and click the Watch Live tab so you can get in on the chat. We won't be monitoring the Facebook chat until after the show, but we will respond to your comments for sure. Really excited about today's show. We don't have a guest today. It's me. I'm my own guest, so the worst guest of the year. But I've spent this morning out at my church with my Ada 4K camera and doing some region of interest work. And I think you'll be interested in this. Let me set the stage a little bit. So we've got a church sanctuary that's about, probably 55 or 60 feet from back wall to front wall. And generally when we do the live stream there on Sunday mornings, we're using my PTZ Optics 12X Gen 1 camera that's connected over IP, that is Ethernet, it's actually got a PoE splitter, so it splits out the PoE on the Ethernet to the power on the camera and then to the Ethernet jack on the camera. It's not a true PoE camera. But and I have a PoE injector and an Ethernet splitter on the other end that goes into my laptop. So I use the same laptop, but I wanted to use the Ada 4K camera. And this is the UHD 100. This is their $500, maybe it's $565, something like that. We're going to be selling them at some point as soon as we get through testing them and know that they're really going to do what we need them to do. The camera comes with like a 4mm lens. Maybe it's a 3.5 or something like that. But it's a fixed zoom lens. You do have focus control, and it's one of those rounded ones. Yeah, rounded like that, rounded on the front. And I've used it here in the studio, and did a virtual, a digital zoom, a virtual zoom with it, and panned around with it a little bit. And that lens was, I guess, okay for studio work, but it wouldn't have enough reach in a big in a big room that's 55, 60 feet long. So being the crafty person that I am, I took my PTZ Optics Z-Cam. I've got a VL variable lens Z-Cam here that has, I think it's a 4mm to 12mm zoom on it. It's a manual zoom, manual focus. And it just happened to be the same mount. I think it's actually, the PTZ Optics camera lens is a CS mount, but it also has a C mount built into it. And the Ada camera, the ultra high definition 100, has a CS and C mount. And so I just swapped lenses. And so I'm using the zoom lens on the Ada, and in fact, this is the Ada that we're working with right now. And so I had to get it all reconfigured and back into the studio, and that's why my color is off, because in addition to other things, I didn't have time to set the color. Because I wanted to get you this video, that's the important thing. So I've got the Ada camera. I'm coming through a Yuan, Y-U-A-N. I don't remember the model number. I've got it over there, but I don't want to grab it right now. Anyway, it's the 4K camera. It goes USB 3 to HDMI, and then HDMI into the camera, and it's a 4K converter. And it's, I think it's USB on the converter, USB-C on the converter, and then USB 3 at the laptop, and just basically running it into my Asus ROG laptop. So, and it's, it's a horse. It's a i7 with I think a GTX 970 card in it, solid state drive, 16 gigs RAM, that kind of stuff. And it handles this pretty well. And so I set vMix on the Asus. It's the vMix Pro version 22, the beta, and went ahead and set it up with a 1080p format. But I brought the 4K camera in at 4K, and I'm not sure how that works, whether you can do that with the high definition version, the HD version of vMix, or not. I think you can. But don't take my word on that. Let me verify that before you get too happy with that. So all this setup is basically to say I'm taking a 4K camera into a 1080p production at the church, and I'm recording it. And I recorded it a couple of different ways. I did just using the position feature in vMix, and used the zoom to zoom into some places, and made some virtual inputs, and then merged between them, and it gave the effect of merging. And I think I'd done that here in the studio a while back. But this is much larger space, and so it's really interesting how it works. And then I set up a virtual set and had the 4 different camera locations in the virtual set. And then I set it up with the Logitech Xbox controller, just to show you what the movement is like. So let me go ahead and roll those videos, and we'll sort of talk about them together. And so let me cue up the first one here. And this is just sort of a general overview, just to kind of get you oriented. So you can see the 25-foot marker there, and then the 50-foot marker beyond that. And hopefully this video is going to be actually playing. It should be playing. Yeah, there we go. So this is the second shot, and this is at 2x zoom in vMix. That's 3x zoom in vMix, and the next zoom shot will be 4x zoom. There we go, 4x zoom in vMix, and I think we might have one more. I think I tried a 5x zoom. Let's see if it pops up again. It may not. Yeah, there we go. That's 5x. Now, I had a little difficulty getting the focus spot on, but I was focusing on that lamb in the altar there in the top right. Okay, and that's a merge back to the camera set. This is probably at about 11 millimeters on the lens. It wasn't quite to the end of its zoom, but it was pretty close to the end of the zoom. And so now I'm merging back. Whoops, forget about that one. I screwed up there. Let me back up on that one just a sec. I went from the 1x. Yeah, let's go back to the there. Now we're at the 2x. This is the 2x zoom. And then we'll go back to the 3x zoom. And I'm using the merge function here in vMix, which just basically merges two images together. And so in vMix, it gives the appearance of zooming in this particular circumstance. And these are actually individual inputs that I'm merging between. So I'm basically loading one in preview and then using the merge transition to transition it into the output. So there we are back to the wide shot. And how do I know when these videos are done? Well, obviously that one wasn't. All right, so now we're just playing around with some other areas there to see if we can pan, tilt, and zoom. And there's a zoom in a little bit and a little bit of pan. And this is actually using the PTZ control for the input for the Yawn capture card. And so much in the same way that you would connect to a PTZ camera over IP, in the PTZ controls in vMix, there's now another option besides Sony's and Panasonic's and PTZ optics cameras. There's one called virtual PTZ. And so I'm using the virtual PTZ and actually making different inputs and then moving between the inputs, and it allows us to do that pretty easily. There we go. So it's just a quick zoom and a quick zoom back. And this is using the merge function in vMix to move between these shots. And that in just a minute, I'll show you a picture of me standing behind that, so you'll have a little bit better idea about the relative size. But you can see that podium is about between 45 and 50 feet from the camera, and that's not zoomed in all the way. I think that's about a 3x zoom, but I didn't make a note of that. I apologize. Okay, so now we're going to try a slow pan. Well, that's as far as I panned it. Now it's a little bit quicker. I'm adjusting the speed in the PTZ control in vMix to get an idea of how I can move between shots and how I can control the movement of the camera so far as its ability to pan between one shot and another shot and control the speed of the pan in the vMix PTZ control. So there we go, a little bit. I think what you might notice there is that it slowly starts and then it speeds up and then it slows down as it approaches its destination, which I think is really pretty cool. If we have time today, I'll show you the video that I did with the Logitech Xbox controller, where there's no ramping up at all. It's 0 to 60 and then 60 to 0 immediately with that one. But this is a little bit nicer and has the appearance perhaps of a cameraman. I did some experiments trying to see if I could follow a speaker back and forth using the controls, and the Xbox control wasn't usable really. It just didn't have enough fine tune for that. and perhaps I can go back and fine tune it some more. The virtual set looked promising, except if a speaker suddenly would change direction and you had to go to a different quote-unquote camera shot, then you might, I think that's all for that video. So let me bring in the next one here, and the next one is actually using a virtual set in vMix, using a blank virtual set to give us the same function. So let's cue that guy up here, and then we'll take him right there. So we've got a virtual set with 4 different camera shots. This is one camera shot, and then we've set up 3 other camera shots, and we're using, again, it's essentially a digital zoom going from a 4K image down to, in this case, I think this is a 1080p image. And so that was shot number 2 there to the left of the altar. Shot number 3 is going to be back at the podium. And this is a little higher than 1080p, whatever this might be. And then we're going to go back to the podium. Now in the vMix virtual sets, you can adjust basically the amount of time it takes the camera to move from one camera shot to another camera shot. And there are 3 presets. I think there's fast, medium, and slow. And then there's a custom one. And they have the initials, I think F, M, and S, and then C. And I set the custom one, I experimented between 10 and 20 seconds, and with the hope that, again, the slow camera ramp up. Yeah, there we go, slow camera ramp up. Now it's moving a little faster, and now as it moves across, it's going to slow down again. That was about, it doesn't seem like 15 seconds, but I think that one was set for somewhere between 12 and 15 seconds. And now again, we're going from that shot of the band area to the wide shot, and it accelerated, and now it slows down towards the end. It was really kind of funny as I was taking these wide shots like this and zooming in on them, the slowness of the initial zoom was so slow that I wasn't even sure that I had triggered the shot. But here in just a second, you'll see it begin to move just ever so slowly, and then it's going to kind of speed up, and there you go. Or did I do that with this one? Let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking that might be all to this video. I should have put something up there to give me an idea how long these videos were, but that comes from not being in the field much doing video, so wasn't really sure. Let's queue up the fourth one, the third one, and this is the one that I did on basically how to set up a virtual set, or how I did it. You probably already know how to set up a virtual set, but taking a look at this, you can see that input number 1 is the camera. Input number 2 is the virtual set. And then to the right there, you've got 4 different, well, I've set up the virtual set in layer number 2. And layer number 2 references the camera, which is the Yan connector there. And then I've got 4 different camera shots, and I can adjust the time for the camera shots here. I think I set it for about 15 seconds. And so I can just click on the shot, and if you see an output, because the virtual set is in output, it's going to move to that shot. I can click on a different camera shot. Again, keep in mind, this is all the same camera. And it's going to start off slowly, move more quickly, and then come to this kind of mid-level position. And then I'm going to hit this 4th camera shot over here. And again, I've set the timing to, again, was it 12 or 15? I can't really make it out from this distance. And I can right-click on that shot and I can rearrange it however I want to. I can go in and I can change the amount of zoom. In this case, I think, what does that go to? 3. And then I'll keep that shot, and just for the sake of resetting it, I'll move to this shot again, and then we'll go back to that podium shot when it's in that different place. And again, I really do love the way it ramps up slowly, increases speed, and then slows down as it approaches its destination. I think this is really, really workable. All right, so let's take that back to 5. We'll go ahead and center it up. The same kind of controls in the virtual set are used in the position tab on any input if you're moving that input around, changing the size of it. So there we go to that one. And again, we can change it. I think here I tried to change it to 5 or 6, and it wouldn't let me zoom that much. And I need to go back and experiment and see if perhaps by setting the PTZ setting in the virtual PTZ settings, you can set up a 2x, I think, all the way up to a 10x kind of zoom limitation. And so I may have set it for a 5. Yeah, do we see? There's the limitation. So we're connected at that limitation. We can zoom in and pan. Not very smoothly, you can tell. This is more like we would see with the Xbox controller. And the 10x is the highest one. And as you can see, it sort of messed up my virtual camera, my virtual set camera, because it was taking a zoom of a zoom, and things got messed up. Excuse me, things got messed up there. And you also notice how vMix kind of saves a few CPU cycles by using a low-res image of some of these inputs, the video of the input, until it's really needed. So we'll go back and reset. We'll have to reset all this in order to get it straight again. But this is what happens when you go play and try to see what you can do. All right, so let's go to, just to give you a little perspective on what these shots looks like, what these shots look like. This is, again, the same virtual set. I've got it set to 25 seconds on the zoom. I'm going to click the podium right there, and it'll start zooming, and then I'm going to try to scoot up to the front to get at the podium by the time it finishes zooming on that location. And this is this is the 5x zoom. So there's me, and yeah, not very good lighting on that. Overhead lighting makes you look kind of sinister. So that gives you sort of the waist up torso shot with this particular 14 millimeter lens, or excuse me, 12 millimeter lens. All right. And then just for comparison, you remember the nice ramp up that we saw there. Just for comparison, I'll show you some of the movement in the Xbox controller. So now we've got the Xbox controller. That's the zoom in it, which is the joystick on the right side. Up and down of the right joystick, zoom in and out, and then the left joystick will do movement. Obviously, it can only do movement once it's zoomed in. You can't pan an image pan a virtual image if it's at full resolution. It's not bad, but again, yeah, you can see a little bit of little bit of jerkiness in it. And it's just 0 to 60, 100%. Now, I did set it, I think I set it at about 50% speed, but there's got to be a way to go in and try to get it dialed in a little smoother. We'll see. But that was an interesting effort. So that's pretty much it at this point. Again, we use the Ada camera with a variable zoom lens. Now, it didn't have to be variable zoom. I just used variable zoom because that was the biggest lens I had, one that ended in a 12 millimeter. And basically, I decided that I was going to make the field of view go basically. Let's see if we can cue this one up again just to show you. We went from speaker on the left to speaker on the right. And that was what I decided was going to be the amount that I wanted to deal with. I had a little bit of zoom left in that lens, so it's probably the equivalent or a 10 or 11 millimeters. I'm thinking that I'll probably pick up some fixed lenses, maybe a 12 or something bigger than a 12 to see how those will go. This camera was about the numbers there show you. Let's go back to this one right here. This is the distance. The 25 and the 50 are the distance from the camera. In this particular sanctuary, the camera was about 8 feet off the back wall. So if I had mounted it on the back wall in the same spot where I have my PTZ camera, I would have had to use a little bit more zoom to get this same look. So a 12 millimeter might work in a 50-foot depth scenario. Maybe it's to the back wall. If it's 8 feet behind me and that's 50, so it's probably 60 feet from the back wall to the front wall. The question is going to be at some point whether a 14 millimeter, a 12 millimeter lens is going to be able to really give you that good crisp 4K at 12 millimeters or greater. If there's a 14 or a 16 or a 20, is that going to give you a good 4K image that you can then work with and slice and dice into multiple 1080p images like we've done here today. So I'll keep you up to date on this as we get closer and closer to it. We're also, the next stop for this camera, the Ada Ultra High Definition 100, which again we're going to be having in our store very soon. I think it's priced between $500 and $600, and the lenses are really cheap. I mean, this one was cheap because I stole it from one of my other cameras. But I think you can find lenses on eBay. There are tons of C-mount lenses on eBay. The question is going to be, the quality of the glass. But if you spend $26 on a lens, which that seemed to be about the average price for some of them, you certainly can't go wrong experimenting a little bit. The next stop for this camera is to go into the school studio that we're finishing up to see how it does as a small studio camera for a multi-person set. The scenario for the school is that they have 2 students that are sitting essentially side by side at a table with a green screen behind them, and the table is covered in green, so it can be anything they want it to be. And will this one camera work to be essentially 3 cameras in one? Will it be a wide shot with both students in it? Will it also be a shot for talent number 1 and a shot for talent number 2, and allow you to zoom and merge and pan between the two? I think if that's the case, that's going to really, really be cool and going to give you the ability to have what essentially is an unmanned camera, but all the function of a manned camera. And in the scenario that I'm working with, the studio that we're finishing up, they actually didn't have one room that was big enough for everything, so they split us into 2 rooms with a concrete block wall right between the 2 of them. So we had to basically say, okay, any audio in here has to be repeated in here. Any video has to be seen. We have to communicate back and forth between the two rooms in a way that allows the people that need to hear and see to see. So to be able to have a virtual camera person in there, right now we've got a pair of PTZ Optics 20X cameras in there because they wanted to do some other things, so they needed the other capabilities, but we were going to use those in the studio as well. And they're run by the PTZ Optics, the IP controller, not the RS-232 controller, but the IP controller. By the way, that's the Gen 3 controller is really, I was very impressed. I was not especially impressed with the Gen 1 or Gen 2s, but the Gen 3, I had it configured for 2 cameras probably within 3 minutes. And 45 seconds of that was just waiting for it to boot itself up. I found the cameras. I set the IP address on the controller. I found the cameras. I identified the cameras. I picked out several presets for the cameras. And within 5 minutes, I allotted 2 hours because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take based on other experiences I'd had. And in 5 minutes, I had everything done with those cameras. Now, obviously, we'll tweak it, and I didn't get into the color correction portion of it and some of the other abilities that the Gen 3 IP controller has. But if you're looking for a controller, and especially if you want a controller that you can have a lot of control over what's going on with the cameras and their video, I would recommend you take a look at the PTZ Optics IP controller. I'm not sure what the model number is. It's about 750 range. Maybe it's 650, something like that, but it's in that ballpark. We've got them in our store at easternshorebroadcasting.com. And oh, by the way, and I know we've run long, but we can't not remind you that this whole show is a giant infomercial. That's right. It's that time. Ta-da! It's a giant infomercial for Eastern Shore Broadcasting. We design and build PCs that are powered by vMix, and we love vMix. And vMix loves us. They've named us one of their favorite vMix reseller in the U.S. 2 years running. And we're hoping it will make it again, but we'll have to see. Anyway, they did invite us to NAB to come be on the floor and talk with folks on their behalf. So we're delighted about that. But hey, we also represent PTZ Optics. We represent PI Engineering, which are the folks that make these wonderful X keys. We represent Magewell, and Yuan will be representing Ada. And then when the Bird Dog NDI PTZ, full NDI PTZ comes out, it's supposed to ship this month. Oh, no, sorry, end of the first quarter. So when the Bird Dog PTZ camera comes out the end of the first quarter, we'll be putting those in our store as well and bringing them in and doing a review on them to see how they are. So that's the latest greatest with what's going on in the great grand world of streaming idiots. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you being patient and waiting for me to show up. We're going to go into post-show in just a second, so I'll be able to see your comments. If you have some questions about the 4K region of interest in a church scenario, go ahead and bring those back up to the chat. That means copy them and paste them and bring them back in again so I can see them. And we'll do that. So we'll see you next week. Oh, go to Facebook and find the Eastern Shore Broadcasting page there and like us. Would you please? Please like us. Please like us. No, anyway, a little gratuitous begging there at the very end. Thanks for watching. Hang around for the post show. We'll be right back after this closing. Okay, we are in post-show, even though it says pre-show down there. Don't pay any attention to that. And let's see what we can find out what went on in the chat while we were gone. You know, y'all probably didn't even watch the show. You just enjoyed chatting with each other. Let's see. Tommy's smelling tar. And Rich says, Tom, was there any CPU hits doing the zoom and merging using the 4K? You know, Rich, that's a really good question. I didn't notice that was something that was going on with the laptop. The laptop is an old Asus Republic of Gamers ROG, like a G751 or something like that. It's the big monster 17-inch. So it's got the i7, it's got the 16 gigs of RAM, it's got solid state hard drive. It had the 970 video card, and I think that's probably real key on making that work as well as it did. But I didn't monitor that. I should have, and I will for the next time. Currently, we've got that same 4K camera connected to an i3 over here, and the i3 is sending the 4K image over NDI to the production PC right here, and that i3 is also streaming 3 streams and recording, and it's sitting at about 40%. The production PC is taking all that stuff in, and it's sitting at about 45%. The production PC has a 750 card, not a big one. The i3 has a 970. And you remember last week, we tried to pull that out and do it without the 970 card, and the i3 went to 100% just immediately. So the 970 really is key. Yeah, colors today is a disaster because I did all my color correction and then I had to reboot. Some settings were saved and some weren't, and that's operator error. Yeah. Okay. Zentient1 says, I've been testing 4K using a Sony AX33 camcorder into an Elgato Camlink 4K USB 3 adapter and using an Xbox controller for virtual, PTC, and vMix. How smooth is it? That's the key. That Xbox, the Xbox controller, I did not find to be particularly smooth and nice. Ed says, was wondering if this method would work with a Panacast USB camera. It'll work with any camera. Now, you may not want to magnify, because again, that's what you're doing. You're just magnifying the image. You're taking a digital zoom. So if you're starting with 720 and you want to do it, it's not going to work very well. If you're starting with 1080, you can go to 720. But if 4K is really where this region of interest concept, I think begins to work well. Oliver says, Olivier, sorry, strange image quality. Yeah, not good this week. That's true. In Denmark, they have People's Church. All right. Audio is not important. Video is not important. Okay, we've got that out of the way, Amnon and Dan. You guys, who knows? Let's see. Some 4K cameras cannot output 4K HDMI unless they are playing a recording. They drop down to 1080p HDMI when recording in 4K. Well, that's not very helpful if you're trying to get a 4K image to stream with. Jan says, some settings were saved, some settings had a complete meltdown. Yeah, that's one way to put it. One way to put it. Frank is here. Gunnar is here. Oh, it's Alan Z. All right. Very, very good, Alan. Yes, it is very nice to be able to zoom around the image. Michael Graves says, Panacast creates a very widescreen image stitching together 3 sensors. Oh, that's cool. When you say very widescreen, Michael, we're talking about 6,000 pixels? Jan says, to my surprise, not only are you right, but some models recording 10 or 12-bit 444 can only outbit 8 422. Michael Graves says, how does this motion compare to a Mevo? Not a Mevo guy. I mean, I think it's the same principle. Ed says, Panicast states they can pull a whiteboard off of a wall that is at an angle to the camera and make it a rectangle as a separate camera shot. vMix can do that, yeah. That's a good use case, though, Ed. I appreciate that. Rion Gadget Guru Smith says, hi, how much did it all cost? The 4K camera is between $500 and $600. It's HDMI. I think they have an HD, a 6G model or a 12G model on SD. I haven't seen or tested that one yet, so I don't know anything about it. The lens I stole, but had I had to buy it, it probably would have been, I don't know, $150. So let's say you've got $150 and $550, you've got $700 in the camera, and then whatever capture device. The capture device I used was the Yan, which I think the 4K edition is about $3.25, something like that. Or you can use what I'm using now in the i3 today is a Blackmagic Decklink mini recorder 4K, which is about $200 and goes PCIe into the computer. So there you go. The Panicast says that they have got 3840 by 1080. Okay. So essentially it's a 1080 picture. It's just real wide. And Michael says it's 3 at 1920 across. Oh yeah, that's right. The 3840 would be the width, not the 1080. Jan isn't used to being right. He's married to me. Boy, so that thing works in the States and overseas. I got it. Panicast states the view is 180 degrees. Well, there you go. Lately, we've been using analog PTZ, smooth motion, but difficult to control precisely. Hard to get the framing right when you're remoting through a walkie-talkie, I bet. Keaton Hearn says, can you fade from one shot region to another as if it is from two cameras instead of panning? Yes. Yes, and in that case, it would be a vMix fade transition, and it would just look like a fade from one camera shot to another camera shot. I was using the merge transition in order to mimic a pan and a zoom. But that's a good point, Keaton. I'll try to get some video on that next time I've set this up. Oliveira says, Tom, side topic, if you have some time to talk about it, did you see the announcement in Dante and their new AV feature? I saw the headline. That's as far as I went. Looks like a concurrent for NDI, isn't it? We'll see. I don't know anything about it other than the headline. And as we know with NDI, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you know, we can talk specs until we're blue in the face. But does it really work in the real world? That's the thing. Yes, Alan says, Alan is Zentient 1. The easiest way to switch shots is to use separate inputs and simple fades. And the panning effect that you saw me do was from one input using the merge transition in vMix to another input. Since it's the same camera, it gives the effect of a pan. Michael Graves says, who has a tracking camera? I think Huddle Cam one of the sister companies to PTZ Optics has got one. It's about $3,000, and it's called the Simple Track. Let's see. Keaton says, okay, so you don't use the virtual piece. No. Keaton, in that sense, I was simply taking a single camera input, making a virtual copy of it, and using the virtual copy to zoom in on a portion of it, and then to merge between the two as a merge function. If I wanted to have live control, I would use some sort of I think the vMix guys had set it up to do to use an inexpensive USB joystick to control the camera. And I need to go back and look and see how they were able to do that, whether it was as smooth as the merge function in the virtual set was, or whether it was more like the Xbox controller. Otis says, I don't see the IP controller in your store. Well, Otis, thank you very much. I'll make sure it's there. Ed says, I think the merge concept is a great idea. Yeah, vMix put that in, I think, with version 20. You know, and it's just like vMix. They stick these things in, and 2 years later, people say, oh, wow, look at this new feature. Kind of like vMix Social. Gadget Guru said, with two cameras, one at the back and one at either side, effectively give you almost unlimited shots. I think you're right. Yeah. Depending on the placement of them, it really would give you great coverage. I'm trying to think of some situations. I know we've had some churches where we put 3 and 4 PTZ cameras in so that we could get all sorts of different shots, you know, wide shots, tight shots from the front, shots from the side, shots from the other side, and then shots behind. And it was just as you say. Dave Edwards says, hey, Dave, the Panasonic has a follow cam. I think there are other folks too. What was it? There's one that's not a follow cam, but it's a follow mount, and you can mount your own camera to it. And Vadio has a tracking cam. Thank you, Kenny. Yep. Kenny, do y'all have any of those tracking cams at your school? Seems to be that would be that's the first use case that I hear everybody talking about, is to use it for lectures. Yeah, there we go. There used to be a device that was used with pan tilt tripod head, did tracking and had the tag. I remember that. And the simple guy said merge was 18 or 17. How about there? Okay. And Michael says that Amber has a tracking cam. So, and when they say tracking cam, we're talking about a camera that actually moves with movement. And so it's keyed into a particular person or a particular thing, and it's moving with that, either because it's seeing that thing or because that thing is holding a tag that's sending a signal. And Oliver says this virtual PTZ feature is definitely a great one for one-man productions. I agree. I think it's going to be huge. And Kenny doesn't have any tracking cams, although it may become on his list. And here might be the thing, is that you use a 4K camera and you have a tracking mechanism somehow, but the camera doesn't move. It just pans the 4K into a 1080p image. There you go. Alan says the Osmo Pocket is 4K with a 3-axis gimbal and does very nice follow, but currently doesn't have HDMI out. Yeah. Isn't that funny how you get all these products out there that if you put them all together, you'd have all the features you wanted, but they're great products that seem to have something missing. Like, yeah, it's a 4K camera, but it doesn't output 4K. It only records 4K. Kenny says there are tracking mats you walk on, and also those that the presenter where he wears a device that the cameras follow. I'd never heard about the tracking mats, Kenny. That's amazing. I was familiar with the kind that uses a tag. Who was it? I think it was Rich. If Rich is still here, Rich Ignacio, that was saying that he was using that tracking camera else. He tested it a while back on the jet ski racing, and he would give jet skiers one of those tags so that the camera would follow them around the racetrack. And then he never got the tags back. So there's the practical application versus the perspective that you thought up. And Otis's message was retracted. Sorry about that, Otis. Patrick, hey Patrick. Tom, on the 4K capture, I see most, if not all devices only capture 4K at 30 frames a second. Do you know of any that can capture 4K at 60 frames a second? I don't know of any. I'm sure there are. I suspect the big brother to this one, this is the AIDA UHD, ultra high definition, -100. I think there's a -200 that has more features. So we'll find out. Solo shot, that's it. Michael says solo shot is the one that, that's the one that uses the key, the tag, the little key that you carry on. I guess it's a RFI key or RFD key or RID key. Excuse me. Goodness. So there we go. All right. How are we doing here? All right. So let me get some feedback from you guys on this. What else would you like to see? What other kind of use cases would you like to see so far as 4K and regions of interest is concerned? There's sports, using a 4K camera to do a virtual pan. In some ways, I think the key is the ability to control. That's the thing. I'd be interested to get a USB joystick and see if that will work in the kind of smooth ramp up that we saw. But the kind of smooth ramp that we saw in the videos earlier were either with the vMix merge function, which means it was software, or with the vMix virtual set function, which means it was software. It wasn't a hardware device that was causing that. So we'll just have to see if we can get that smooth function, I think, in something that's controlled by a live operator, then we may really have something there. But that's been the holy grail on PTZ cameras as long as I've been involved with them. All right. Oliver said, would you have any advice about the best price quality 4K cam that outputs 4K? Oliver, you want something that'll record, or you just want like a broadcast camera? That's probably the first question. Otis said, should I set up a VLAN to control PTZ cameras on our church network to segregate it from other computers, security cameras, or other public Wi-Fi? Otis, this is just to control the cameras. I don't think controlling the cameras is a big load on your network, if that's what you're concerned about. And I don't think unless those other things are going to steal all your network, I don't think you'll have a problem. I don't know that I'd do it over public Wi-Fi, because that's certainly subject to ebbs and flows. All right, so Oliver says sports, absolutely. Presentations like TEDx, definitely. Patrick says, I would like to do a region of interest for sports, but 60 frames a second is a must. I'm seeing setting up a baseball 4K outfield cam and making it a wide ISO and a solo batter cam. Wow, That's a great use case. I like it. I like it a lot. Chris says that Giles says that the world of live streaming is returning next week. That's right. February 2nd, I think. Where have they been? On winter vacation? Jan said, I would like to see much improved and smooth controls for both virtual and physical PTZ. Stand in line. I think you're not the only one. Ed Horn says, smooth as a gimbal with tracking and Wi-Fi for video output from your phone. Yeah, I saw that. I'm always a little nervous about the thought of using Wi-Fi to transport video in a public location. I'm not worried about somebody stealing it. I'm just worried about not enough bandwidth for just that second. Olivera says, well, a cam that could output 4K, so I can use it with virtual PTZ feature. Okay, there you go. He's being more definitive on what he wants in a cam. You may want to look at this this AIDA camera, AIDA, UHD 100. Yep. It is, the 100 is HDMI. I think the 200 is HDMI and SDI, or maybe just SDI. Not sure. And Gadget says 4th. Not sure what you're talking about there. But so clarify for me if you would. So when 4K was first announced and people were talking about 4K live streaming, I was like, yeah, right. How do most people watch video? Right here. 50% of the people that watch this show on demand use a tablet or a phone. Maybe more than 50%. Why would I stream 4K so they can watch it at 360? Doesn't make sense. But the 4K take it to the bank use case is the region of interest. That's the one that makes sense. So you can still use your 1080p, but you're just making a 4K camera do the work of 4 cameras or 6 or however many you want. And then I think that's going to be that's where 8K is going to get a foothold. Is that 8K is going to allow you to have not 4 1080p images, but 12 1080p images. Olivera, I didn't know the brand either until my friendly AIDA manufacturer's representative called me and said, let me send you this camera. You're going to love it. And he sent it to me. And I said, how soon do you need this back? He said, well, I'd like it back. I said, let me have it for 6 months. Well, we can't do that. I said, oh, come on. Let me have it for 6 months and I'll do some use cases on it and we'll get some case studies made up on it. He said, well, let me check with the factory, make sure that's okay. Well, I still have the camera. It's kind of like, possession is 9/10 of the law. I promise I will send it back. I know who it belongs to. I'm hoping if I keep it long enough, they'll just say, oh, keep it. All right. Patrick says, another case for a region of interest would be low light events like concerts. 1 cam versus 3 or 4 makes color balancing pretty easy. Yeah, that's right. Of course, in my case, I can't get the color right on 1 camera. And certainly, I'd be disaster on 3 or 4. But I think you're right. It would have to be a camera that did well in low light. I mean, that's number one. The fact that it's 4K would be secondary to that. Oh, I'm sorry. World of Live Streaming is back on the 4th. That's what you meant by 4th. Gotcha. Okay, not the 2nd. Ed says, watching live events on a phone makes me nauseous. Really? Oh, wow. Okay. Now, is that with a a camera that's, doing one of these, because that drives me crazy, or with a, fixed camera or PTZ camera that has multiple shots. Amnon has a question about NDI. Nick was here last weekend and wanted to set up NDI on my system for certain things. Yes, turned out that the package you downloaded will not install all the required files on a Windows 7 PC. Is NDI not supported on Windows 7? Huh, well, that's a good question. Don't know. I think we'll have to find out. I don't have any Windows. The only Windows 7 PC I've got is my old 8 or 9 year old laptop that won't run NDI because it doesn't even qualify. And I had to dig in his software and find that scanned something program that was freestanding and got it to work. Well, there you go. It was an old program that did the trick. Well, Amnon, if there's anybody that can get things going, it's going to be you and Nick. All right, Stream Event says the Panasonic AW-EU 150 4K, 60 frames a second, but it costs 10 grand. Well, it ought to be good. Holy cow. Gadget says, by the way, saying for everyone here, thanks for the advice, Tom. You're welcome. It's my pleasure. All right, Ron says, quick vMix lesson, please. How are you getting your production clock up on the screen? Very simple. You take the production clock and you have to enable it and put it out there. So you go to settings, you go to options, and you click the tick box next to production clocks where it says transition display. And then you can add it as an input by double clicking it, and then by double clicking the clock, and then it has an option to create an input. And then on a multi-view, you can just add it as inputs 1 through 8. Let's see. Andra says, PlaySite was on BBC News today using vMix. Oh, cool. And Michael says, NDI supported on Windows 7. Thank you, Michael, but not on some very old CPUs, like the laptop I have, that lack SSE instructions, and SSEE, and SSEEE, and maybe 4 E's. Whatever one it is, I don't have enough E's. There you go. There you go. Oh, I think Ron was talking about this right here. Yeah, I've added it as an input, and then I made a multi-view that combines all these different piece parts. Yeah. There you go. Patrick says 4K and high frame rate in broadcast TV is making an impact right now in replay technology. Being able to zoom in and slow down without losing quality. Absolutely. Yeah, that's where 4K is going to start. 8K or 16K or 32K or whatever's next. Receiving broadcast TV in 4K is 3 to 5 years away, in his opinion. Well, I mean, there's a lot of broadcast TV that's only 720. So there might be some 4K stuff. I wonder if the Super Bowl this weekend is going to be available in 4K. Don't know. And, it's funny, all the trouble that people go to make these kind of things like not losing quality when you zoom in, for people like me to watch a game, a match, a contest, and to be able to see whether, somebody touched somebody or a foot touched a line or a ball touched something. And that's great, but it's only a game. Although I guess it could be a multi-million-dollar call if you're betting on it. Not a new PC, but not old like me. NBC offered the Olympics in 4K, but only on demand. That's right. They didn't want to deal with that in a live broadcast situation. I get that. I get that. Yeah, we could offer the show in 4K on demand. We could stream it 1080p and offer it 4K. Not that you'd want to watch it 4K, but you never know. All right. How are we doing here? Well, I am appreciating you guys and gals for hanging around so long. Again, if you're watching this on Facebook, you've missed out on the wonderful chat in YouTube. Can I do that? Let's see, where is the pre-show thing? That's number 79. I can show you what you're missing. Let's see, let's try it right here, number 79. And let's position it. Yeah, there's a lot of chat right there. But that's what the chat looks like. There's a lot of it. Okay, Otis says, I'm concerned about bandwidth while streaming and all our other network devices running. Yeah. Yeah, but I think of all the things that you're talking about, camera control, if that's what the issue is, camera control is going to be really lightweight. The other thing that I'd say on that subject, Otis, is that depending on your circumstance, obviously, it might, if you're concerned about it, then just set up a network. If you've got 3 cameras, then you got 3 rolls of Ethernet cable and a small switch, and you plug that switch either directly into your streaming PC in a second NIC, or into the other switch or router that you're using, and get it that way. But you can divide and conquer. I have several installations where we've set up essentially 2 networks. One network they already had, and then a second network for camera control. And then I can think of at least one other use case where we set up a separate network, not just for control, but also for PoE and for video transport. So the second network was basically handling all the camera stuff, and it was coming into a second NIC on the PC. In fact, the school that we did the studio for just recently, the IT department requested that it have a second NIC so that our cameras didn't somehow end up on their network, and that was fine. That was fine. Simple Guy says, I'm still looking for 2 or 4 input HD capture cards, HSDI only. Well, if Amazon's full of them, but I think you're probably talking about something that's a deal. NWBC, great show, thank you. Thank you. It has been fun. Andres says, NKH has the 2012 London Olympics in 16K live on some large screens around London. That is the other use case for more than 1080p, is big screens. Absolutely. Simple Guy says, I'm still looking for an HD capture card, not Blackmagic. I have 2, and they're only giving me 1 input. He wants cheap as possible, 2 or 4 inputs. There are some no-name brands out there. You can find them. But it is a situation of you get what you pay for. Andres says NHK, and sorry, it was 8K. Yeah, but still, I get it. I think that's a very legitimate use case. It's not a widely used use case. I mean, you've got one one large screen that, 5,000 people are watching. So you got one screen. 5,000 people, yes, but one screen. I get it. I get it. All right, guys and gals, I think the time has come. It's 3:32 here, local time, and I've got to get a PC in the mail to a good client. Dan says, but can I get 4K on a 17-inch monitor? Sure. You have to get a 4K monitor, but yeah. Yeah. I've got or had a little 4K monitor that was this big. Patrick says, I wonder what 4K over NDI HX would look like. The new Panasonic coming out has NDI output, but only NDI HX. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. I bet we'll see it at NAB. And it's going to be interesting when the time comes to get 4K out over full NDI. Yeah. Simple Guy says, all your shows have been fun, even from the days of That VidBlaster Guy, where one man, one PC, one awesome show, still awesome. Oh, you're sweet. You just want a cheap capture card, I know. I understand. What would be the resolution? What would the resolution be if all used their phones instead of a large screen? Well, here's what I know to be true. This broadcast today on YouTube, I am sending 1080p at 4.5 megabits per second. YouTube is in the split second is re-encoding that and making it available not only at the 1080 I'm sending, but also at 720, 480, 360, 240, and 144. And in some cases, your device or YouTube, I'm never really clear which it is, will sense what the maximum resolution is that you can maintain in terms of the bit rate that you're going to be able, your downlink, your download speed, and it will select the resolution for you. And if you go to YouTube and click the little gear icon, you can set it for auto, and that's where it senses the amount of bandwidth. In my phone, I know I can, if I've got a good connection, I can take 720 and it looks really great. But if I'm out in the field somewhere, I don't want it eating up all my data. I can select it all the way down to 144, and a lot of times I do that just because I want to listen to something that's being live streamed. But so today, there are people watching on their phones live that are watching it at whatever their phone speed will maintain or whatever their phone speed is they select. And that's one of the reasons why I like YouTube, is because it gives you the option to choose the resolution that you want to watch at, not a forced resolution. When I was using Decast and I was streaming, I think I was streaming 720, there were some people in some areas that didn't have a very fast internet connection. I was streaming 720 at I think 2.5 megabits per second, and they only had a 1 meg, download, so they were buffering continually. And moving to YouTube, they weren't able to get the 720, but they could pick up the 360 or the 480 at a lower bit rate. So I think that was a plus. All right, let's see. Oh, it's Anderson, of course. I knew it was Anderson. When you started talking about cheap capture cards, they gave you away. Oliveira says, Tom, as we're talking about 4K with HDMI output, did you get the opportunity to test out the latest Magewell Pro Convert HDMI 4K Plus? No, I haven't. I need to get one. I thought about that last night. Ed says there is a good deal on Drawcast lighting today on B&H. Thank you for sharing, Ed. All right, guys, I am going to fold up my tents here. Loved hanging out with you guys today. I appreciate your support and your questions and your interest. And if I can help you with anything, you know how to get me. If you don't, just go to easternshorebroadcasting.com. There's a contact page there. Shoot and drop me a note that way, and I will respond. And Ed is going to Barbados. Good work. Anderson, you hooked another one. All right, guys, I'm going to let the stream run out so you don't get cut off. And I will see y'all next week. Thanks.